Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Footage of police raiding the wrong homes is unsettling enough.
What was the first thing you saw?
Guns.
Now the CBS 2 investigators learn some of the video from the body cameras may be missing.
Good evening, I'm Jim Williams. Tonight, our CBS 2 investigators expose Chicago police failing to use body cameras and collect potentially critical evidence. CBS 2's Dave Savini uncovers numerous teams of police officers citywide raiding homes and either not wearing cameras or failing to even turn them on.
There it is, the crowbar.
Battering ram.
Chicago Police Search Warrant! Chicago Police Search Warrant!
Peter Mendez and his father Gilbert watched police body camera video from the night Chicago police officers raided their family's apartment.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Tonight, even more troubling information has been uncovered involving their raid and other raids happening at the homes of innocent people across the city.
They used a tank, rammed the door.
The CBS 2 investigators found critical moments that should have been captured on police body cameras are missing or were never recorded in the first place.
Do you want to see an investigation into what happened and why there's no body camera footage for this officer?
Yes.
Or this officer?
Yes.
We first told you 8 months ago how police got a warrant with the wrong apartment number and burst into the Mendez home with guns drawn, terrifying them all, especially Peter, who was 9 at the time, and his little brother Jack.
They really hurt you that day.
We've now learned the first 2 officers through the family's door, Officer Joe Capello and Officer Mike Guzman, along with the sergeant in charge, Russell Egan, failed to use body cameras when they first confronted them. That's when the family says police pointed guns straight at the children.
What do you remember about that rifle?
I remember it being pointed at us.
There should be action taken.
Law professor David Harris works with police departments in different states to improve policies involving use of force, search and seizure, and body camera use.
The key body cameras are either missing or were never recorded in the first place. It's a problem. It's a problem.
Someone is not being truthful.
State Senator Jacqueline Collins says the Chicago Police Department should be following a 2015 law created in the wake of the Laquan McDonald shooting to improve transparency and trust with citizens. It requires police officers wearing body cameras to activate them, including during the execution of search warrants.
Before they even enter the residence, they need to activate their cameras.
And do you think that there should be a higher level of discipline if they don't follow that?
Of course.
Senator Collins says the cameras are vital to capture what really happens during these raids, especially to children.
What was the first thing you saw?
Guns.
Just last month, the CBS 2 investigators uncovered security camera footage of 17 Chicago police officers getting ready to raid a home with a sledgehammer and battering ram, some wearing hoods, all in plain clothes. The team burst into a Gresham neighborhood home during a 4-year-old child's birthday party.
Guns pointed at us, and I'm basically like, who are you? And it was like, shut the up. We got a search warrant.
So far, police won't confirm if body camera footage from that raid even exists.
And so when the police officer came through this door, what was the police officer doing?
Pointing guns at children while executing search warrants in the wrong homes is a troubling pattern we've been exposing since last year.
They pointed a gun at me.
Where did they point the rifle? How close was it to your face?
It was like around.
I think you have uncovered civil rights violations of certain communities, primarily the Hispanic and Black community.
It's like people think all Mexican and blacks are bad, but they're thinking wrong.
When this happens again and again and again, and nobody seems to do anything about it, now you have a systemic problem.
Professor Harris says CPD needs to be tracking wrong raid data, conducting detailed audits, and using body camera footage to examine problems and hold individual officers accountable.
Are you tracking them?
But the CPD has refused to turn over detailed records of how often wrong raids happen and where. A refusal that led us to this news conference in November.
Do you know how many times they get it wrong?
Yeah, we look at it.
Do you have actual numbers?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but we do have it.
Because we've been asking for numbers.
It is this lack of transparency that has Collins upset with Superintendent Eddie Johnson. This month, the department did finally send us a list of 2,708 search warrants served since 2016. But the records failed to clarify which or if any involve wrong raids. In fact, missing from this list are warrants from the birthday raid and Mendez raid.
He needs to come before the public, before a hearing, to indicate why there has been such difficulty and for you to gain the data.
The CBS 2 investigators have also learned specialized units, including Chicago SWAT teams, are not wearing body cameras on search warrant raids like they are required to do in Los Angeles and Dallas.
There's no reason that SWAT teams can't use them too. None.
SWAT raided Cynthia Eason's home, destroying her grandchildren's electronics and toys. And she says pointed guns at all the kids and trained a rifle on her oldest grandson.
I'm like, oh my God, please don't let him shoot my baby.
The only video the family has been able to get of this wrong raid is from a neighbor's cell phone. And the raid in this case is also missing from the list of warrants CPD gave us.
And I remember he was standing like right in the middle and pointing a gun at us.
Peter is talking about Officer Joe Capello, the one with the assault rifle, the same officer who got the bad warrant and failed to independently check the address. We obtained the police department's equipment and supervisor logs showing Capello was issued a body-worn camera that night and it was fully operational.
You see that box right there that's checked? What does the next word say?
Functioning.
It says he was given a camera at 16:31 hours, which is 4:31 p.m. But when the raid happened about 2 hours later, Capello claimed he wasn't wearing one. So what happened to it?
If you're saying you got it, you have it, and it's functioning, then where is it?
So what do you think that means?
He had one, but he didn't put it on, or he turned it off.
And then there's Sergeant Egan, who was in charge of this raid. He said he doesn't recall turning his body camera on. And Officer Guzman, the first guy through the door with a gun drawn, he didn't turn his camera on until halfway through the raid. He turned it on just in time to catch this conversation, admitting they were in the wrong apartment.
He gave us the wrong apartment. He gave us the wrong apartment.
And the footage that does exist shows they kept searching the apartment anyway.
I think that is totally unacceptable, it's unconscionable, and that's why we need to get involved in mandating that they're held accountable for that misuse of a power.
Our ongoing investigation into these raids has sparked Collins to create new legislation.
I think that's why we need to move in pushing for legislation, which I would like to call Peter's Amendment.
The law will include body camera and discipline requirements and protection for children when police search homes. And she's naming it after Peter Mendez.
How do you feel about that they're thinking about making a new law based on your name?
I'm just surprised because I'm just a normal kid. I feel like I'm sticking up for a lot of kids that have gone through stuff.
That's one brave kid. Police officials did not answer any questions about the raids and missing body camera video in the Mendez case. They did tell us 8,000 cameras have been issued, but we've learned hundreds of officers are not using them. Because of our findings, Senator Collins plans to call for hearings in Springfield regarding her proposed search warrant and body camera law.
Simply put, he's traumatized and heartbroken after Chicago police burst into his home and pointed a gun at him. And he's 9.
As 2 investigator Dave Savini reports, the raid should never have happened, and the family says they'll never be the same.
One guy said, "You better shut the F up, because if you know any better."
Peter was 9 when the trauma began. It was dinner time when Chicago police busted his front door, invading his family's home.
With guns?
Yes, all like assault rifles.
His little brother Jack by his side, shaking with fear.
They pointed a gun at your dad?
Yeah.
And your mom?
Yeah.
And then did they point a gun at your brother? What was it like when that gun was pointed at you?
It was like my life just flashed before my eyes.
Were they rude?
They were rude.
Were they rough?
They were rough.
Mom and Dad say cops screamed profanities at the family as they tore the house apart and ordered them all to the floor at gunpoint.
You never thought a police officer would do that?
No.
You promise that you'll tell the truth?
Yes.
Very good.
And the CBS 2 investigators obtained this video deposition of Daviana Simmons, who testified when Chicago cops raided her home too.
How many police do you remember seeing inside your house?
5.
She says they also drew their weapons.
Did the police point a gun at anybody else in your house that day?
They pointed a gun at me.
The Simmons family sued the city and received a $2.5 million settlement in June. Daviana was only 3 when the gun was drawn on her and suffers from PTSD.
There is zero priority put on officers avoiding the unnecessary use of force when kids are around.
Attorney Al Hofeld Jr. sued the city on behalf of Daviana's family and is now planning to sue for what happened to Peter Mendez and his family.
There was absolutely no need to point guns at children.
In fact, the federal government in the 2017 U.S. Department of Justice investigation into the Chicago Police Department said the CPD needs reform when it comes to its treatment of children and use of force.
To children that are scared, shaking, and screaming, there's no threat there.
Hester Mendez says the use of guns on her kids was excessive, and now they are also suffering from PTSD.
I can hear my baby screaming, don't shoot my dad, don't kill my dad, leave my dad alone. What did my dad do?
Peter's dad, Gilbert Mendez, says his family did nothing wrong. And what's even worse, police had no right to even be there because they were raiding the wrong home. And now the Mendezes say police are trying to cover it up. The CBS 2 investigators found officers from the 11th district used a search warrant filled with mistakes. Even the judge's printed name as required by police order is missing. In fact, police tell CBS 2 they don't have their own copy of the warrant or any record the warrant exists. But Peter's mom has this one.
I think the Chicago Police Department needs to be held accountable. They came in and they tore our home up. They tore our lives upside down. And we've never been the same.
She says police refused to show her the warrant at first, but after an hour of searching, she caught a glimpse of it and saw the 2 people actually named in the warrant lived in a different unit in their apartment building.
Even after I told them that they were in the wrong place and the people live upstairs, they still continued to search.
She says they searched another 30 minutes after she informed them of the mistake for a total of an hour and a half in their home. All the while, the children were seeing their dad in handcuffs.
And there was absolutely no need to keep their father handcuffed in front of them after they knew they were in the wrong apartment.
How were they talking to your parents?
4 or 5 people said to my dad, get the F down, we'll shoot you.
Peter Mendez says he will never forget the emotional pain he suffered that night in November of 2017.
Should a child ever have to go through that?
No, sir.
And when they left, did anyone say they were sorry?
No. I even tried to shake their hands. 2 of them just shrugged by.
How did it make you feel when the officers wouldn't even shake your hand?
I just felt that they're unpolite because, I was trying to be nice.
What are you thinking about right now?
Just the saddest moment.
They really hurt you that day. What did they make you feel?
It made me feel like the police weren't even what I thought they were.
Police say they still can't find any record of the warrant or post-warrant reports which they are mandated to complete. But we confirm there is a separate record at the state's attorney's office that includes the signature of a police lieutenant who signed off on it. In a statement, the CPD said, "We take these allegations very seriously. We strongly urge the family to contact the Bureau of Internal Affairs, COPA, or the Inspector General's office." Brave young man going through a hard time, the entire family. Very difficult interview.
So the federal government has already suggested that they change the way they deal with children. Are they taking any steps to do that?
There's no sign of that yet. They've started doing things for people that are suffering mental illness, breakdowns, for crisis intervention, but nothing on the books for kids yet. They plan to file a lawsuit tomorrow.
So it was either sloppy or there's a cover-up because they don't have that warrant that the state's attorney has and that
I got it.
The mom had.
We have it. Why doesn't the police have it?
Yeah.
Why don't they have
Fair
it? And why
question.
haven't they turned it over?
Right. Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Now to the CBS 2 investigators and the story of a Chicago police pointing a gun at 2 little boys during a raid. One day after Dave Savini's bombshell report, the family filed a federal lawsuit against the city today. The reason? Police had the wrong home. Tonight, Dave has new information tonight on the critical mistakes that were made.
I made like a loud crash sound.
His family's front doors rammed open as officers from the 11th District, armed with a bad warrant, not only raided the wrong apartment, but once inside allegedly put guns to the heads of Peter Mendez and his little brother Jack.
So there was a gun on you?
Yes, both of us.
Pointed at you?
Yes, all four of us.
Federal lawsuit filed against the city of Chicago today alleges police using a warrant filled with careless mistakes traumatized a family.
What was it like when that gun was pointed at you?
It was like my life just flashed before my eyes.
You never thought a police officer would do that?
No.
What are you doing? Pointing guns at innocent young children? Wake up!
We've now learned the day before the raid, Chicago police officer Joseph Capello asked the judge for a warrant to search the apartment where he believed Curtis Roberts and Patricia Cavazos were living. And a foreman allegedly told Capello he observed heroin and cocaine stored at their apartment and that Cavazos occupies the entire second floor. But no one apparently checked that out because Peter and his family were the ones who actually lived on the second floor.
It's like they didn't even do the research, like what apartment it is. Yeah, they got it wrong, so wrong.
Cavazos and Roberts, the ones they were looking for, lived on the third floor. The complaint says Officer Capello even had their mugshots. They look nothing like Peter's parents. According to the federal lawsuit, cops held Gilbert Mendez in cuffs for 90 minutes, despite looking nothing like Curtis Roberts, who is described as African American with tattoos on his head. Mendez is Hispanic and has no tattoos on his head. Patricia Cavazos is described as 5'8". Hester Mendez, not even close.
How tall are you?
5'1".
Not 5'8".
Not 5'8".
When your mom told them you're in the wrong apartment, what did they say?
One guy said, "You better shut the F up, because if you know any better."
Dave Savini, CBS 2 Investigators.
Dave, thank you. The federal lawsuit also says police simply relied on the informant's word as to what floors Roberts and Cavazos lived on. To our knowledge, they have not been charged with anything related to this case. For 5 days, police told us they could not find a record of the warrant that existed, but the state's attorney had a copy, and the Office of Emergency Management says they also have a record that it happened. Now to a CBS 2 Investigators exclusive. We've uncovered troubling, never-before-seen video of Chicago police breaking down doors, raiding homes, and terrorizing innocent families. The raids pitted police against innocent families because the officers failed to verify they had the correct addresses.
The families are telling CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini they were humiliated, their children traumatized, and their homes ripped apart. And we've learned it's happened over and over again.
Chicago Police Search Warrant! Chicago Police Search Warrant!
Through the lens of a Chicago police body camera, you are getting a glimpse inside a raid at the wrong apartment.
Get on the ground!
A team of officers bust into a West Side apartment with handguns and assault rifles looking for heroin and cocaine. Terrifying 9-year-old Peter Mendez and his family.
It was like my life just flashed before my eyes.
He and his family had been packing boxes, prepping to move when police stormed in with guns drawn.
Where did they point the gun at you?
I wouldn't say like right here, but like straight at it.
Your hands behind your back, buddy.
Police handcuffed Peter's dad, Gilbert Mendez, on the floor of the kitchen, then got him up and walked him into the room where his boys were. That's when they saw the cuffs around their dad's wrists and panicked even more. We showed the wrong raid video to Sheila Betty, a Northwestern University law professor who's part of the police consent decree negotiations.
There's no reason why these children had to see their father handcuffed. The children's screams are just heartbreaking.
Betty says that can traumatize a child. She also says children shouldn't have guns pointed at them.
When a police officer points a gun at somebody, it is a use of force.
Just the saddest moment.
They really hurt you that day.
The CBS 2 investigators broke this wrong raid story in August. Around the same time, another bad raid took place and was recorded by a neighbor.
They got a warrant in their hand.
A SWAT team, including an armored vehicle, surrounded Ebony Tate's house.
It was just fear, because I didn't want to make the wrong move. I didn't know what was happening.
Once again, police had the wrong address and held more children at gunpoint, says Tate's mother.
And then they had a gun this close to your face.
Kids too?
Yes.
She says her 13-year-old grandson had a gun trained on him.
Where did they point the rifle?
I'm like, oh my God, Please don't let him shoot my baby. If he hadn't moved or tripped or anything, who's to say what the cop would have done?
The CBS 2 investigators are uncovering a pattern of officers getting warrants with bad addresses that were signed off and approved by their superiors, prosecutors, and judges. Even before these two bad raids, there was this one.
Yeah, they used a tank, rammed the door.
In January 2017, Sharnia Phillips says a SWAT team busted through her door and used a flashbang grenade.
If I just would have stepped over 1 inch, I would have been right behind that door.
You would have gotten smashed.
I would have gotten smashed.
She says police tore through her place looking for a stash of assault rifles with laser scopes. What did they find? This .38 caliber Ruger.
Which you had a license to have.
Which I have a license to have.
Why did she have it? It was for her job as a parole officer.
Thank God she didn't bring her pistol down.
Peter Cantwell, Phillips' attorney, says if she'd been holding her gun, she could have been shot.
So you could have been killed that night.
I could have been killed.
So this is just irresponsible. It's reckless, and it's reckless disregard.
Another troubling pattern involves officers and supervisors apparently failing to follow multiple department rules during raids.
You're going to get a copy of the search warrant.
These families say police repeatedly refused to tell them why they were being raided and waited until they were done searching before ever turning over the warrants.
They gave me the search warrant after they tore up the house.
They never showed me a warrant until after 2 hours.
CPD rules say warrants need to be turned over promptly. Had that been done, police would have quickly learned they were in the wrong homes.
They live upstairs. They live upstairs.
Why don't you just...
Even more egregious in the Mendez case, police can be heard whispering about raiding the wrong place.
He gave us the wrong apartment. He gave us the wrong apartment.
Bad information from a confidential informant.
He gave us the wrong apartment.
Information they were supposed to independently investigate and verify.
He said up the stairs, and it's the first door right there. I'm saying upstairs based on the windows in the picture.
Officer Joseph Capello is the cop who got the warrant approved. He and another officer actually joke about the bad raid.
What's up, dude? Bad. Hey, just throw a party for me.
No, it's not. You signed off on it.
Huh?
You signed off on it.
Hey, let's check in here.
Despite the fact that officers said they were in the wrong place, they still kept searching.
At this point, they know they've got no legal basis for being in the apartment. I would imagine they were hoping to find something that would allow them to have some sort of post hoc justification for continuing the search.
Attorney Al Hofeld Jr. has sued the city several times for bad raids. He represents the Mendez and Tate families.
You don't cut corners on the procedural safeguards that are meant to protect citizens' Fourth Amendment rights under the Constitution against illegal searches and illegal seizures.
And after these bad raids, the families say CPD did nothing to repair the damage they caused or replace items they broke, including doors, electronics, and toys.
Yeah, they broke my tablet. They cracked my tablet.
What did they break of yours that meant something to you?
My Hello Kitty karaoke.
Nobody tried to fix anything, nothing.
The final indignation? The families say police went above and beyond to treat them badly, even denying them clothing.
You're standing out on 71st Street in your socks and basically underwear and pajamas.
That's it.
And it's 30 degrees out.
30 degrees out, freezing.
You were humiliated outside.
Yes.
Because you were almost naked.
Yeah.
Easton said police also forced her outside in front of her neighbors in her t-shirt and underwear.
When I was sitting there, one officer, he was laughing at me.
And you kept asking for some clothes?
Yes. And he said no. And I asked 2 more times and he said no. And he's laughing. You can imagine how that feels.
Finally, Gilbert Mendez wasn't freed from his cuffs until after his wife actually got a hold of the warrant.
They live upstairs. No, I'm keeping this. I'm keeping this.
You keep it.
That's when police finally left.
We've been trying to interview Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson for months about these wrong raids and how often they happen. After no answers, we tracked him down at a news conference tonight. He told us they do keep track, but he didn't have the numbers off the top of his head. Then, when I told him we have been asking for those numbers, he didn't answer me. A lawsuit going to be filed tomorrow for the Tates by Al Hofeld Jr., so we'll be covering that.
So they're not giving the numbers. Are we hearing anything about whether these officers have been disciplined or reprimanded?
We asked for all the records involving these cases. We've gotten nothing.
All right, stay on top of it. So lawsuit tomorrow.
Lawsuit tomorrow.
Probably another one after that, right?
Probably.
Okay, thanks.
CBS 2 investigators first broke the story. Police raiding wrong homes, pointing guns at innocent people.
I was just terrified.
Now Dave Savini is demanding answers.
Do you know how many times they get it wrong?
Yeah, we look at it.
Do you have actual numbers?
We do have that.
So why isn't he telling us?
Live from the CBS 2 Broadcast Center in Chicago, this is CBS 2 News at 6.
Good evening, I'm Erica Sargent.
And I'm Rob Johnson. So we know Chicago police have raided wrong homes. We even have the video as it happens.
CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini first uncovered the story. Tonight, he's asking the tough question. How many times does it happen?
We do everything we can to ensure that we are targeting the right location.
Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson is talking about bad raids and bad warrants, but he won't tell us how often it happens. Wrong raids like this one captured on police body cameras. Our CBS 2 investigators obtained the video and broke the story of this wrong raid on the Mendez family's apartment. Guns pointed at the family, and an innocent Gilbert Mendez cuffed in front of his children, Jack and Peter, who were traumatized.
This is the saddest moment.
We try to provide the officers all the training we can to ensure that that type of thing doesn't happen.
But it is happening repeatedly.
So you could have been killed that night.
I could have been killed.
Sharnia Phillips says a bad warrant led to her home being raided and guns pointed at her. This family said the same thing happened to them, too.
Where did they point the rifle?
Around. If he hadn't moved or tripped or anything, who's to say what the cop would have done?
Officers terrorized a totally innocent family.
And now today, the Tate family is also suing the city for their wrong raid.
We do everything we can, but we're not perfect.
For months now, his department has failed to turn over bad search warrant information, including a list to CBS 2 of all the wrong raids police performed.
We're human. Sometimes we make mistakes.
He gave us the wrong apartment. He gave us the wrong apartment.
In the Mendez case, police were also caught continuing to search even after they realized they got it wrong.
He gave us the wrong apartment.
And listen here as they even joke about their screw-up.
What's up, dude? Bad. Hey, just throw a party for me.
No, it's not. You signed off on it.
Huh?
You signed off on it.
Hey, let's check in here.
Are you tracking them? Do you know how many times they get it wrong?
Yeah, we look at it.
Do you have actual numbers?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but we do have it.
Because we've been asking for numbers.
But he doesn't answer and just turns his head.
They live upstairs.
Meanwhile, wrong raid allegations keep surfacing.
And I was just terrified. I was very much humiliated.
Since the city has yet to comply with our Freedom of Information request involving bad warrants, we have now gone to the Attorney General for help in getting the city to turn them over. The tips keep coming in. More people called the CBS 2 investigators today, accusing police of more bad raids.
And there's been a development as far as COPA goes as well, right?
We know now that COPA is involved. They're asking questions about the videos, and I believe they are getting the videos right now.
Unbelievable, though, the superintendent just turns his head when you're trying to get answers.
He never let me I never got the chance to follow up the question.
Yeah.
But they know we've been asking for this stuff, and they haven't given it to us.
Right.
Stay on top of it. Thanks, Dave.
Good evening. I'm Brad Edwards.
And I'm Erica Sargent. She is only 7, but she told CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini just what it was like when police raided her home with guns drawn.
Yeah, this is the 4th case Dave has covered where families have been terrorized by a police mistake. Here's Dave.
What was the first thing you saw?
Guns.
Samari Boswell says her little brother TJ was turning 4 and having a birthday party the night they suddenly had guns pulled on them.
How were they holding them?
Like this.
The 7-year-old was playing Duck Duck Goose with her brother and cousins and anxiously awaiting a slice of this chocolate birthday cake when the party was busted up by a team of Chicago police officers raiding their home.
Were you scared that night?
Yes.
With her mother, Stephanie, by her side, the 2nd grader recalls the way police talked to everyone.
They were saying F words and stuff. It was horrible.
Horrible and unnecessary because they say the person they had a warrant for, suspected of possessing the drug ecstasy, hadn't lived in the building for 5 years.
Were they all pointing guns?
Oh.
The CBS 2 investigators found this security camera on a building next door and tracked down footage of the raid. showing unmarked police cars pulling into the alley at 77th and Paulina around 7 p.m. on a Sunday. Then, one by one, on a cold Chicago February night, you can see a total of 17 officers head to the family's home, one carrying a battering ram, another with a sledgehammer, while others had their guns drawn, armed and ready with more units on the other side of the house.
All I heard was steps of like shoes coming down the stairs hard and saying, "Get your hands up," you know.
At first, Kiana Jackson, Samari, and TJ's aunt said the family didn't know if they were being robbed or what was happening.
At that time, I'm looking, thinking it's a joke, you know what I mean? But then you see guns. You see like, you see guns pointed at us. It was like terrifying.
Here you go.
We showed her the video we found of all the cops involved.
What do you see?
A lot of police and so many of them. Like about, oh my God, so many of them.
Had you ever seen that many police before?
No, not at all.
Were you worried about the guns?
Yes. I thought they was gonna shoot. I thought they was gonna shoot me and my brother and everybody else.
Jackson said this raid went on for about 40 minutes, and police refused to show them a warrant.
I want to know, why were they there? Who are you? Show us a search warrant. And I asked for a search warrant, I guess, one too many times. And he was like, arrest her.
She said she was scared and got angry and repeatedly told officers she had a right to see the search warrant. And she's right. CPD's own search warrant policy says warrants need to be turned over promptly.
We are people. We have rights.
She says to shut her up, they handcuffed her and held her outside in the cold.
They manhandled me. It took 2 officers to get the cuffs on me.
Chicago Police Search Warrant!
The CBS 2 investigators have been exposing wrong raids since August of last year. A total of 4 cases involving 11 children where police held innocent families for long periods of time without showing them the warrants.
They live upstairs. They live upstairs.
And in each case, the mistakes could have been cleared up quickly. In November, we asked Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson about police raiding the wrong homes.
We try to provide the officers all the training we can to ensure that that type of thing doesn't happen.
So how good is the training? Aside from getting addresses wrong and failing to promptly turn over search warrants, the CBS 2 investigators have also been uncovering a pattern of what these families call abusive treatment.
Where did they point the gun at you?
I wanted to like right here, but you know, like straight at it.
Children with guns aimed at them.
Where did they point the rifle?
And terrorized seeing their innocent parents handcuffed. Swearing, threatening, even humiliating some. This innocent woman says she was forced outside in her underwear.
You were humiliated outside?
Yes. When I was sitting there, one officer, he was laughing at me.
They like supposed to protect and serve us at all costs, and it's like that night it wasn't. It was, we were the enemies.
So just how often do wrong raids happen? Seems to be a tightly guarded secret at Chicago Police Headquarters.
Are you tracking them? Do you know how many times they get it wrong?
Yeah, we look at it.
Do you have actual numbers?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but we do have it.
Because we've been asking for numbers.
You heard him. The superintendent said they track wrong raids, but CPD still refuses to turn over the numbers. We've been asking for the records for 5 months.
As long as they continue to do that, there will never be trust between citizens and the Chicago Police Department.
Attorney Al Hofeld Jr. represents the Jackson family and other wrong raid victims, including the Mendez family, whose home was raided in August. In that case, Hofeld has been fighting to get all the body camera footage, but key portions are still missing.
You want them?
Absolutely, 100%. We want all of them, every one.
This family says in their case, they're not sure if officers were even wearing body cameras, but they hope so. They believe it will show the damage they say police left behind, and maybe show what happened to TJ's birthday cake, which they found out of the container, off the table, and down on the floor.
And there it was in a corner on the floor with the number 4 stuck in it.
What were you thinking might happen to you and your little brother?
That they was gonna take us to, do you know that jail? That it's a kid jail. Take us to that.
Samari's mother in tears over how everyone was treated, especially the kids.
Yeah, it's just like emotional for my daughter to fully understand and feel the way she feels at just 7 years old.
The family says judges need to be more careful when signing off on these warrants to make sure police really did their homework. The Chicago Police Department did not comment on the birthday raid case. For 5 months, we've been fighting, and we are still fighting, to get records of all their wrong raids. We've gone to the Attorney General for help in forcing CPD to turn those records over. Attorney Al Hofeld Jr. says he's filing a lawsuit against CPD tomorrow. Brad and Erica, just keeps happening.
So, Dave, for 5 months they've stonewalled you. You've covered 4 of these cases, these wrong raids. How many do you know have taken place?
I know about a dozen over the last 18 months, but I've seen many settlements over the years. It's a systemic problem that they have. Something's got to be done.
And hearing from these children, it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and listen to that little girl. I mean, kid jail, that's hard to hear.
Yeah. Dave, thank you.
A family is at home sleeping when Chicago police forced them into the cold at gunpoint with their hands up. It was another raid where young children were traumatized, and as CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini uncovered, one of them, an 8-year-old, was even handcuffed.
What were they saying?
Come out with your hands up.
Dominique Wilson says she feared one wrong move and any one of her children might have been shot.
I was very, very, very scared, nervous.
It was early morning on a school day when she and her children woke up to a swarm of officers.
They had their guns pointed at me and my children.
Police yelling over a bullhorn for them to get out of their home.
And you came all the way out here?
All the way out. They say walk, keep your hands up, walk.
So you were surrounded by police right here?
Surrounded by police right now with rifles pointed at us.
Then she says those assault rifles held by SWAT officers followed their every move.
The rifles are pointed at us as we walking.
Royal Wilson, the child at the back of the line, says they were all crying, especially his little sister.
I was worried about my sister most because she only 6 years old.
And things were about to get worse.
They say turn, turn, turn.
Now you're all out here in the street?
We all out here in the street.
That's when the children watched their mom get handcuffed. But then officers started to hone in on 8-year-old Royal.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
He says they grabbed him by his wrists and cuffed him too.
They made me stand up straight and my hands was behind my back and they had them tight.
And you were handcuffed like that on the street?
Yes.
What did it do to you to see him handcuffed?
It took the breath out of me.
My legs are shaking.
You're just a 3rd grader?
Yes.
So why were police there? According to the complaint for search warrant, a confidential informant told them there were illegal guns in the home. And based on that John Doe's word, the search warrant was granted. But it was bad information and there were no guns found in any rooms. So the family said police then started tearing apart the ceiling. Meanwhile, the 8-year-old was still cuffed.
And then you had them there for how long?
30.
30 minutes?
Yes.
Chicago Police Search Warrant!
For nearly a year, the CBS 2 investigators have been exposing an alarming pattern of police traumatizing children during other wrong raids, swearing at children, pointing guns at them,
Your hands behind your back, buddy.
and handcuffing innocent parents and relatives in front of them.
We can't continue to have that happen.
Newly elected Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who during CBS 2's mayoral debate in March responded to our investigative findings and even called for accountability within the police department when it comes to these raids.
And that's something that the superintendent has to own and take responsibility for.
What did you think might happen to you?
I didn't know. I was just scared.
And around the same time the 3rd grader was being cuffed, the city of Chicago was settling a lawsuit related to another innocent young boy.
He's scared.
It happened last year. He was just 10 years old and was so scared he urinated in his pants.
They're making him pee on himself.
They just have a modus operandi where they come on with excessive force from the very beginning. It's a strategy.
Al Hofeld Jr. is planning to file a lawsuit against the city on behalf of the Wilson family. It's his 5th case involving Chicago police raiding a home where children had guns pointed at them and are now suffering from trauma.
Hopefully you're showing the public the need for meaningful reform and retraining and new policy.
Go, 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 go.
In fact, our ongoing CBS 2 investigation into how wrong police raids affect children has led to proposed legislation. House Bill 51 outlines steps officers would have to take when children are present during police activity to make sure they're safe from harm, both psychologically
I'd be waking up in the middle of the night.
and physically. Royal said police even hurt him by putting on the cuffs too tight.
And you got a bruise?
Yeah, I had a bruise
Where?
right here around my wrist.
The family said police waited a half hour to remove his cuffs and then released all of the children to a relative. The adults, including Dominique, 2 other sons, both adults, and their girlfriends, remained held outside for a total of 2 hours, even though it was raining and just 37 degrees.
We wet, soaking wet?
Soaking wet.
Meanwhile, here's what police were doing inside to their ceiling, smashing through drywall in their hallway and bedrooms, ripping apart the ceiling as police kept searching for weapons. So what did they find?
Nothing.
So they raided your home, pointed guns at your kids, and they blew out your ceiling to search for guns, and they found nothing.
Nothing.
According to the search warrant, the informant claimed one of her adult sons who was visiting had guns in the house, but there were none, and no one was arrested.
Where were the rifles pointed?
Towards us.
But it's the treatment of children by police that really angers this mom.
No one should get treated the way that me and my family and all these other families got treated. These are children that's being traumatized.
Superintendent Johnson has declined our repeated requests for an interview. Chicago police say it is not CPD protocol to handcuff children. Initially, they say they did not know the age of the child, and once the age of the child was determined, handcuffs were removed. As for House Bill 51, it passed the Senate earlier today and is now headed to the House for a vote. Dave Savini, CBS 2 Investigators.